Story number 1. The Haunting of Holly's Toys. I never believed in ghosts. Growing up in Brooklyn, surrounded by the hustle and bustle of New York City, I learned to attribute strange noises and eerie silences to the quirks of an old building or the imagination of exhausted minds. But everything changed the winter I started working at Holly's antique toy store. Holly's was a charming little shop nestled between a bustling cafe and a quiet bookstore on Fifth Avenue. Its large glass windows were always adorned with intricate displays of vintage toys, each one meticulously arranged to evoke a sense of nostalgia and wonder. The shop was especially magical during the holiday season, when twinkling lights and festive decorations transformed it into a winter wonderland that drew crowds of eager children and their parents. I landed the job thanks to a friend who knew the owner, Mrs. Eleanor Holly, a kind but enigmatic woman in her late 60s. Eleanor had inherited the store from her parents, who had run it before her. She was passionate about preserving the history and stories behind each toy, often sharing tales of their origins and the children who had cherished them over the decades. My first few weeks were uneventful. I learned the layout of the store, familiarized myself with the inventory, and enjoyed the warmth and coziness that seemed to emanate from every corner. The toys were more than just objects. They were pieces of history, each one with its own unique charm. But as the days grew shorter and the nights colder, a subtle unease began to settle over the store. It started with faint sounds, soft footsteps echoing through the aisles when I was alone, or the distant sound of laughter that seemed to come from nowhere. I dismissed them as the noises of a building settling or perhaps the wind whistling through the streets outside. One particularly cold December evening, as I was closing up, I felt a chill run down my spine. The store was silent, the only sound the ticking of an old grandfather clock in the corner. I was straightening up a display of wooden trains when I noticed something strange. A train that had been meticulously arranged on the tracks was slightly out of place. Its position subtly shifted. I shrugged it off, attributing it to my tiredness. As I moved to adjust it back, I heard the unmistakable sound of giggling, soft and playful, yet tinged with an undercurrent of sadness. My heart raced as I glanced around the store, but no one was there. The lights flickered momentarily, casting long, dancing shadows across the room. I tried to shake off the feeling and continued with my duties, but the sense of being watched lingered. Over the next few nights, the phenomena intensified. Toys would move on their own. Dolls positioned themselves differently, and antique rocking horses rocked back and forth without any visible force. Eleanor seemed unfazed, often reassuring me that it was just the store's old wiring acting up or my imagination playing tricks on me. But one night, everything changed. It was December 24th, Christmas Eve, and the store was adorned with its most elaborate decorations. The air was filled with the scent of pine and the sound of softly playing Christmas carols. I was arranging a display of porcelain angels when I heard Eleanor's voice call out from the back room. "Mark, could you come here for a moment?" I made my way to the back, finding Eleanor standing by an old, dusty window, staring out into the snowy night. Her normally vibrant eyes seemed distant, almost vacant. "Is everything all right, Eleanor?" I asked, concern evident in my voice. She turned to me, a sad smile on her face. "Just thinking about the old days, Mark. This store has been in my family for generations. Sometimes, it feels like the toys themselves hold memories." You know? Before I could respond, the temperature in the room plummeted. My breath became visible in the sudden chill, and the lights dimmed, casting the room into partial darkness. I felt a presence behind me, a heavy weight pressing down on my shoulders. Spinning around, I was met with the sight of a shadowy figure, a child, no older than 7, standing in the corner of the room. His eyes were hollow, his expression one of profound sorrow. "Help us," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the howling wind outside. I froze, unable to move or speak. Eleanor reached out, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. "He's one of the spirits, Mark. The children who used to visit the store a long time ago. They never really left. Before I could process her words, the child vanished, leaving behind a lingering sense of sadness and fear. The room returned to normal, the chill dissipating as quickly as it had come. Eleanor looked at me with a mixture of concern and resolve. "We need to honor their memories," she said softly. "They're trapped here, reliving the moments they spent in joy and now yearning for peace." Determined to help, I spent the following days researching the store's history, uncovering stories of children who had lost their lives in accidents near the store over the years. Each tragedy seemed to deepen the store's connection to the supernatural, the spirits of these children unable to move on. On Christmas Eve the next year, Eleanor and I decided to hold a small ceremony to honor the lost souls. We set up an altar in the main display area, placing photos of the children, candles, and offerings of toys that once brought them joy. As we began the ceremony, the atmosphere in the store shifted. The air was thick with emotion, the whispers returning but now filled with a sense of longing and hope. "May you find peace," I recited, my voice steady despite the fear that still lingered. One by one, the shadows of the children appeared, their forms becoming more defined and less sorrowful. The laughter and giggles were no longer haunting but filled with a sense of release. The spirits gathered around the altar, their presence now calm and serene. "Thank you," one of them whispered, his voice filled with gratitude. "We're free." As the last candle flickered out, the store was enveloped in a warm, comforting light. The oppressive weight lifted, and the sense of being watched was replaced by a profound sense of peace. Eleanor and I stood there, witnessing the final moments of the ceremony, knowing that we had done something truly meaningful. The following morning, the store felt different, lighter, as if a burden had been lifted. The toys no longer moved on their own, and the eerie whispers were gone, replaced by the joyful sounds of children enjoying the holiday season. Eleanor smiled, her eyes reflecting a sense of fulfillment. "We did it, Mark. We gave them peace." Years have passed since that Christmas Eve, and Holly's antique toy store remains a beloved fixture in the neighborhood. Its haunted past now a story of redemption and compassion. The spirits of the lost children no longer roam the aisles, their memories honored and their souls finally at rest. But sometimes, late at night, when the store is quiet and the snow falls softly outside, I can still feel a lingering presence, a gentle reminder of the lives we touched and the peace we helped to restore. The haunting of Holly's was never truly gone, but it transformed from one of fear to one of hope, a testament to the enduring power of kindness and the bonds that transcend even death itself. Story number 2. Echoes in the mall. I never thought a bustling shopping center could be a place of genuine fear. Growing up in Chicago, I was no stranger to malls, the lifeblood of suburban America. They were places of laughter, family gatherings, and endless consumerism. But nothing could have prepared me for the night the echoes of Christmas turned deadly at the Mall of America. It was December 15th, 2015, and the mall was adorned with festive decorations. Twinkling lights hung from the ceilings, oversized ornaments dangled from escalators, and the scent of cinnamon and pine filled the air. My friends and I, a tight-knit group of college students, decided to celebrate the holiday season with a day of shopping and merriment. We arrived early, eager to explore every nook and cranny of the expansive mall. The latest gadgets, fashionable attire, and gourmet treats awaited us at every turn. As we wandered through the themed sections, laughter and chatter filled our group. Little did we know, our joy was about to be overshadowed by a mystery that would haunt us forever. Around noon, we ventured into the Winter Wonderland section, where artificial snowflakes gently descended from the ceiling, and a life-sized Santa Claus waved cheerfully from his throne. The atmosphere was magical, drawing crowds of excited children and their parents. We split up to cover more ground, agreeing to meet back at the central atrium in an hour. I wandered into a quieter corner of the mall, drawn by a display of vintage toys. The nostalgic charm of the old-fashioned train set and porcelain dolls captivated me, transporting me back to simpler times. As I examined a beautifully crafted music box, my phone buzzed with a message from Jake. "Hey, where are you? We need to regroup." I glanced at the clock. Only 30 minutes had passed. Shrugging off the concern, I continued my exploration. Suddenly, a cold chill swept through the area, and the lights flickered ominously. The cheerful music that had been playing moments before warped into a dissonant, eerie tune. I felt a sense of unease but tried to shake it off, attributing it to the overwhelming sensory experience of the mall. Then, without warning, the music stopped. Silence enveloped the space, broken only by the faint sound of footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. My heart raced as I scanned the area, trying to locate the source of the noise. That's when I saw her, a girl, no older than 10, standing alone near the toy display. Her dress was outdated, and her eyes held a vacant stare that sent shivers down my spine. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked, approaching cautiously. She didn't respond. Instead, she turned and began to walk away, her footsteps leaving no trace in the artificial snow. Confused, I called out to her, but she vanished into thin air, leaving me alone with an overwhelming sense of dread. I hurried back to the central atrium, where my friends were already growing concerned. Jake looked pale, his eyes darting nervously around the crowd. "Something's wrong," he whispered. "One of our friends. She's missing." Panic set in as we frantically searched the crowded mall, asking store employees and security guards for help. Hours passed with no sign of the girl. The authorities were called, but their search yielded nothing, only footprints leading toward the parking lot, disappearing into the heavy snowfall outside. No body was ever found, and the case went cold, leaving us with more questions than answers. In the weeks that followed, strange things began to happen. I returned to the mall, hoping to find some closure or perhaps evidence that would explain the disappearance. Every visit felt different, as if the mall itself was alive, aware of my presence. The same girl would appear and disappear at random, her presence always accompanied by the unsettling silence and the flickering of lights. One night, unable to sleep, I decided to meet Jake and the others at the central atrium. The mall was eerily quiet, the usual throngs of shoppers absent. As we gathered, the temperature dropped sharply, our breaths visible in the cold air. Suddenly, the lights went out, plunging us into darkness. Emergency backup lights flickered on, casting long, distorted shadows across the floor. A soft, haunting lullaby began to play, the same dissonant tune from that fateful day. The sound seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. We huddled together, fear gripping us as the shadows danced around us. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw her, the girl from before, standing at the end of the atrium. "Please, help me," she whispered, her voice echoing with sorrow. I stepped forward, my voice barely audible. "What do you need?" She pointed toward the old, abandoned section of the mall, a part that had been closed off years ago due to structural issues. "Find the music box," she pleaded. "Set me free." Determined to help, we made our way to the forgotten area, pushing through boarded-up entrances and debris-strewn corridors. The air grew colder, the darkness pressing in around us. At the end of a long hallway, we found an old toy store, its windows dusty and glass broken. Inside, amidst the clutter of forgotten toys, lay a dusty music box, identical to the one I had been examining weeks earlier. I picked it up, the familiar melody resonating with the haunting voices that surrounded us. As I opened the lid, the song played softly, and the girl appeared before us once more. "Thank you," she whispered, her form beginning to shimmer and fade. "I'm free now." The moment her spirit was released, the oppressive atmosphere lifted, the mall lights stabilized, and the eerie silence was replaced by the sounds of distant Christmas carols and laughter. We stood there, watching as the girl vanished, leaving behind a sense of peace and closure. In the days that followed, the mall returned to its normal hustle and bustle. As if nothing had happened, the mystery of the missing girl remained unsolved. But the strange occurrences ceased, leaving us to believe that we had somehow helped a lost soul find peace. Years later, the memory of that night still lingers, a chilling reminder that even in the most familiar places, the echoes of the past can reach out and touch the present. The Mall of America remains a place of joy and celebration. But sometimes, when the snow falls just right and the lights flicker, I can still hear the faint strains of a haunting lullaby, a testament to the night when the echoes of Christmas became more than just festive cheer. They became a story of fear, hope, and the enduring power of compassion. Story number 3. The Cursed Christmas Pine. I never believed in curses. Growing up in the heart of Chicago, surrounded by the relentless hustle and bustle of the city, I found solace in logic and reason. Superstitions and ghost stories were the fodder for late-night conversations and campfire tales. Nothing more. But that all changed the year we brought home the Christmas tree from Mr. Langley's Antique Emporium. It was late November, and the holiday season was just beginning to cast its magical spell over the city. My wife, Emily, and I had decided to start our Christmas preparations early. We strolled through the festive streets, marveling at the dazzling lights and elaborate window displays, until we stumbled upon Mr. Langley's store, a quaint, cluttered shop nestled between a bustling bookstore and a trendy cafe. The window display was a mesmerizing assortment of vintage ornaments, old-fashioned decorations, and an impressive array of antique Christmas trees. Something about the display called to us, an irresistible allure that drew us inside. Mr. Langley, a sprightly man with a twinkle in his eye and a beard that seemed to have a life of its own, greeted us warmly. "Welcome. Looking for something special for your holiday?" he asked, his voice as comforting as a warm blanket. We nodded, enchanted by the array of trees. "We're looking for a unique Christmas tree this year." Mr. Langley led us to a corner of the shop where an old, majestic pine stood. Its branches were thick and full, adorned with delicate, hand-painted ornaments and strings of antique beads that shimmered in the dim light. "This one has quite the history," he said, stroking his beard thoughtfully. "Bought it from an estate sale decades ago. It's been part of many happy holidays." Emily and I exchanged a glance. There was something undeniably special about the tree, a presence that made it seem almost alive. Without hesitation, we decided to take it home. Transporting the tree to our apartment was a task in itself, but we managed with the help of a few sturdy friends. Once inside, we set it up in the living room, the centerpiece of our holiday decorations. As we began to adorn it with ornaments and lights, the room filled with a warm, inviting glow. The tree looked perfect, a testament to the joy and love we shared. That first night was peaceful. Emily and I went to bed early, satisfied with our day's work. But as midnight approached, a strange unease settled over the apartment. I awoke to the sound of faint whispers, soft and indistinct, as if voices were trying to communicate from beyond the veil of sleep. Groggy, I rubbed my eyes and glanced around the room, but saw nothing amiss. The following morning, Emily noticed the tree's lights were flickering erratically, despite our careful placement. "That's odd," she remarked, her brow furrowing. I dismissed it as a minor electrical issue, something easily fixed. But as days turned into weeks, the phenomena intensified. The lights would blink on and off in unpredictable patterns, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. Sometimes, ornaments would shift their positions overnight, as if touched by unseen hands. The most unsettling occurrence happened one chilly December evening. We were hosting a small family gathering, the apartment filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses. As the night wore on, the atmosphere grew tense. I caught sight of a porcelain angel at the top of the tree, its delicate wings slightly askew. When I looked again, it had moved to the center of the tree, staring directly at me with lifeless eyes. "Did you see that?" I asked Emily, my voice betraying my unease. She nodded, her expression mirroring my own. "The angel. It wasn't there a second ago." We chalked it up to fatigue and the magic of the holidays. But the incidents continued. The whispers grew louder, often accompanied by the subtle sound of footsteps pacing around the room when no one else was present. Objects would fall from shelves, rattling to the floor with a force that suggested a hidden hand. One particularly cold night, as a fierce snowstorm raged outside, the true horror revealed itself. Emily and I were nestled on the couch, sipping hot cocoa, when the whispers escalated into frantic pleas. "Help us! Free us!" The voices cried, their tones filled with desperation and sorrow. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness as the power failed, the storm outside cutting off any chance of external light. We fumbled for the candles, lighting them to dispel the darkness. But the flickering flames only seemed to amplify the shadow's movement. The tree stood ominously in the center of the room, its branches swaying unnaturally despite the lack of wind. The whispers morphed into anguished screams, echoing through the apartment. Emily grabbed my hand, her eyes wide with fear. "We need to get rid of the tree," she whispered urgently. I nodded, but as we approached the tree, the air grew thick with an oppressive energy. The ornaments gleamed with an unnatural light, and the angel's eyes seemed to follow our every move. The whispers reached a crescendo, the voices now a chorus of tormented souls trapped within the tree's confines. Desperate to end the nightmare, we decided to remove the tree. As I began to dismantle the branches, the room shook violently, the ornaments clattering to the floor with a deafening crash. The whispers turned into wails of agony, and the air grew icy cold, our breaths visible in the dim candlelight. Just as we were about to haul the tree out the door, a ghostly figure materialized before us, a woman in Victorian garb, her face pale and eyes hollow with sorrow. "You cannot take it," she moaned, her voice echoing with centuries of pain. "The tree holds our memories, our lives. Free us." Trembling, I tried to speak, but no words came out. Emily, her face ashen, nodded silently, understanding the gravity of the situation. We couldn't simply destroy the tree. It was bound to the spirits of those who had been cursed by its presence. Recalling Mr. Langley's words about the tree's history, I realized there was more to this curse than mere superstition. The tree had been part of countless happy holidays, but behind its beauty lay a tragic past. The previous owner had died under mysterious circumstances while decorating the tree, his spirit forever entwined with the living decorations. Determined to break the curse, we decided to honor the spirits trapped within the tree. We gathered old photographs, letters, and mementos that reflected the joy the tree had once brought to our lives. Together, we created a memorial around the tree, lighting candles and placing heartfelt messages of peace and remembrance. As we performed the ritual, the oppressive energy began to lift, the whispers softening into gentle sighs. The ghostly figure watched us, her sorrowful expression gradually transforming into one of gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her form fading into the air as the last candle flickered out. The storm outside subsided, the first light of dawn breaking through the storm clouds. The tree, now calm and still, stood as a symbol of our compassion and the power of remembrance. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted, replaced by a serene sense of peace. In the days that followed, the strange phenomena ceased. The tree remained in our apartment, but its presence was no longer malevolent. Instead, it served as a reminder of the spirits we had helped find peace and the importance of honoring the memories that bind us. Years later, when I look back on that Christmas, I realize how close we came to losing ourselves in the darkness. The cursed Christmas pine taught me that even in the most joyous of times, there can be shadows lurking beneath the surface. It showed me the enduring power of love and compassion, and how sometimes the most terrifying horrors can be quelled by simple acts of kindness. The memory of that haunted tree remains a chilling reminder of the thin veil between our world and the next, and the spirits that linger, seeking peace and remembrance. And as long as there are stories to be told and hearts willing to listen, the legacy of the cursed Christmas pine will live on, a testament to the enduring bond between the living and the dead. Story number 4. The Cursed Jewels of Evergreen Lane. I never believed in ghosts, growing up in a bustling city like Los Angeles. Surrounded by the relentless pace and bright lights, I developed a practical mindset. Superstitions and supernatural tales were the fodder for late-night conversations and campfire stories, not something I took seriously. That was until I started working at Timeless Treasures, a quaint jewelry store nestled on Evergreen Lane, where reality and the inexplicable began to blur in the most terrifying ways. Timeless Treasures was unlike any other store in the area. Its display windows were adorned with exquisite antique pieces, vintage diamond necklaces, intricate gold bracelets, and emerald-studded rings that seemed to whisper stories of bygone eras. The shop had a warm, inviting glow, and the scent of polished wood and delicate perfumes lingered in the air. Mrs. Eleanor Whitaker, the owner, was a charming woman in her late 60s, with silver hair always perfectly pinned and a demeanor that exuded grace and kindness. I had landed the job through a friend who knew Eleanor from their university days. As a recent graduate struggling to find steady work, I welcomed the opportunity with open arms. The job was relatively easy, managing the front desk, assisting customers, and occasionally helping with inventory. Little did I know, this seemingly ordinary position would thrust me into a nightmare I couldn't have imagined. It was mid-November, just as the first hints of winter began to settle, when the strange occurrences started. First, it was subtle, faint whispers echoing through the store late at night, shadows flickering in the corners of my vision, and a persistent chill that seemed to emanate from the antique jewelry. I dismissed these as figments of my imagination or the natural quirks of an old building. But deep down, a sense of unease gnawed at me. One evening, as I was closing up, the store plunged into darkness. The power had failed, leaving me in pitch blackness with only the emergency lights casting long, eerie shadows across the room. I fumbled for my flashlight, heart pounding, when I heard it, a soft, sorrowful melody playing from one of the display cases. My hands trembled as I turned on the flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness to reveal a vintage music box that hadn't been part of our inventory. The music was hauntingly beautiful, yet tinged with an underlying sadness that sent shivers down my spine. As I approached the display, the temperature dropped sharply, my breath visible in the cold air. Suddenly, the music stopped, and I felt a presence behind me. I spun around, but no one was there. The whispers returned, louder this time, forming words I couldn't comprehend. "Help us!" I backed away, tripping over a display stand and crashing to the floor. My flashlight flickered, and the room seemed to warp, the shadows dancing unnaturally. Desperate to escape, I crawled toward the exit, but the door wouldn't budge. Panic set in as the whispers intensified, merging into anguished cries that echoed through the store. The next morning, Eleanor found me sprawled on the floor, pale and shaken. I recounted the events, expecting skepticism or concern, but her expression remained calm, almost resigned. "That's the spirit of Isabella," she said softly. "She was a loyal employee here decades ago. Tragically, she disappeared one Christmas Eve, never to be found." I listened in stunned silence as Eleanor continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Isabella was devoted to her work, especially during the holidays. On that fateful night, a massive snowstorm hit the city, and the store was closed for safety. She stayed behind to secure the antique pieces, but she never made it out. Some say she's still here, bound to the jewelry she loved so much." Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, I delved into Eleanor's story. Through old records and dusty archives, I pieced together Isabella's last days. She had been passionate about restoring antique jewelry, often working late into the night to perfect each piece. Her sudden disappearance left the store in mourning, and over the years, her presence became a whispered legend among the staff. That night, armed with newfound knowledge, I returned to the store to confront the ghost. The power was back on, but the oppressive atmosphere remained. As I wandered through the aisles, the whispers began again, guiding me to a secluded corner where Isabella's favorite display was located, a stunning emerald necklace set in an ornate gold frame. I reached out to touch the necklace, feeling a surge of cold energy pass through me. The whispers crescendoed into a mournful wail, and the temperature plummeted once more. Isabella materialized before me, her form ethereal and translucent, eyes filled with sorrow. "Why do you keep us here?" she asked, her voice echoing with pain. "I want to help you find peace," I replied, my voice trembling. "Why are you still bound to the store?" Her gaze softened slightly. "We're trapped by our unfinished business. The storm of that Christmas Eve cut our lives short, and we can't move on until our stories are told." Realizing the key to her release lay in acknowledging her sacrifice, I promised to honor her memory. Together with Eleanor, we organized a commemorative event to celebrate Isabella and the other lost souls who had been part of Timeless Treasures. We restored old photographs, shared stories of their dedication, and placed personalized notes alongside their favorite pieces. On the night of the event, the store was filled with friends, family, and loyal customers, all coming together to remember those who had been lost. As we lit candles and played Isabella's favorite melodies, the atmosphere shifted. The whispers transformed into harmonious voices, blending with the music in a beautiful, haunting symphony. Isabella appeared once more, her form now radiant and peaceful. "Thank you," she whispered, her presence filling the room with a sense of calm. "We can finally move on." As the final candle flickered out, the store felt lighter. The oppressive energy lifted. The antique jewelry shimmered with a newfound brilliance, as if infused with the love and memories of those who had cherished them. In the weeks that followed, the strange occurrences ceased, replaced by a serene ambience that made Timeless Treasures even more enchanting. Eleanor and I often reflected on the experience, grateful for the opportunity to help a lost soul find peace. The story of Isabella became a beloved tale, a testament to the enduring power of compassion and the bonds that transcend even death. Years later, whenever I pass by Evergreen Lane, I smile, knowing that the haunted jewelry store has found its peace. The legacy of Timeless Treasures lives on, not just through its beautiful pieces, but through the stories of those who once walked its halls and the spirits who now rest in tranquility. And as I continue my journey, I carry with me the memory of Isabella and the lessons learned, reminders that even in the most unexpected places, the echoes of the past can shape our present, and that sometimes, the most terrifying horrors can be quelled by simple acts of kindness and understanding. Story number 5. Frozen Aisles. I never imagined that a routine Christmas shopping trip could turn into a nightmare. Growing up in Texas, winter was a rare visitor, and snowstorms were more of a distant threat than a present reality. But December 2018 changed everything, etching a horrifying memory into my mind that I still can't fully comprehend. It was Christmas Eve, and the streets of Houston were buzzing with the usual holiday chaos. Families flocked to the numerous Walmart stores scattered across the city, hunting for the perfect gifts amidst the frenzy of last-minute shoppers. I was with my sister, Laura, and her 2 teenage children, Ethan and Mia. We decided to tackle the crowded Walmart downtown, hoping to snag a few last-minute presents before heading home to our cozy apartment. As we entered the store, the familiar scent of cinnamon-scented candles and the bright lights of holiday decorations greeted us. The aisles were packed with eager shoppers, each one determined to find something special for their loved ones. We grabbed a cart and began our search, navigating through the maze of shelves and displays. Around noon, the weather outside took a turn for the worse. Dark clouds rolled in swiftly, and within minutes, a fierce snowstorm enveloped the city. The wind howled like a living creature, and the snow fell in relentless sheets, blanketing everything in sight. The temperature plummeted, and the store's overhead lights flickered ominously. "Looks like this storm is really coming," Laura remarked. Glancing out the window, we decided to finish our shopping quickly. But the increasing intensity of the storm made it clear that the weather was no longer something we could ignore. By mid-afternoon, the storm had transformed Houston into a whiteout. Visibility outside was nearly zero, and the wind battered the store with unyielding force. The Walmart staff began closing up early, trying to secure the doors against the tempest. An announcement crackled over the loudspeaker. "Attention customers. Due to the severe weather conditions, we will be closing in 10 minutes. Please proceed to the nearest exits immediately." Panic set in as we realized we were trapped inside the store. The main doors had been locked, and the backup exits were inaccessible. Shoppers grew restless. Fear etched on their faces as the reality of the situation sank in. The store's intercom system struggled to maintain communication, adding to the chaos. "We need to stay calm and find a way out," Laura urged, her voice steady despite the growing fear around us. We decided to head towards the electronics section, hoping to find a way to contact the outside world or at least signal for help. As we navigated the crowded aisles, the atmosphere grew tense. The flickering lights cast long, dancing shadows, and the once cheerful holiday music now sounded distorted and eerie. Suddenly, the store plunged into darkness as the power failed completely, leaving us in pitch blackness illuminated only by the emergency exit signs. "Stay close," I whispered, gripping Laura's hand tightly. Mia clung to her mother's side, her eyes wide with fear, while Ethan paced nervously, his mind racing with thoughts of what might happen next. We fumbled for our phones, hoping to find a signal, but the storm had knocked out cell towers, leaving us completely isolated. The only sounds were the howling wind outside and the distant creaking of the building under the storm's assault. It was then that the whispers began, soft, indistinct voices that seemed to echo through the aisles. At first, I thought it was just the stress getting to us, the isolation and fear playing tricks on our minds. But the whispers persisted, growing louder and more coherent. "Help us find peace," they seemed to say, their tones filled with sorrow and desperation. Laura tried to reassure us, but the unease lingered, thickening the air around us. We continued our search, guided by the faint glow of emergency lights, until we stumbled upon the back storage area. The noise here was different, more intense, like a chorus of anguished souls crying out for release. As we entered the dimly lit storage room, we saw something that made our blood run cold. Shelves filled with products seemed to move on their own, items sliding across the aisles without any visible force. Boxes toppled over, creating a chaotic mess, and the air grew icy cold, our breaths visible in the frigid air. "What's happening?" Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. Before we could respond, a shadowy figure materialized in the corner of the room, a woman dressed in old-fashioned clothing, her eyes hollow and her expression one of profound sorrow. She moved towards us with an unnatural grace, her presence sending shivers down my spine. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice echoing with an otherworldly resonance. "We're trapped," Laura replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "We don't know what to do." The woman's gaze bore into us, her sorrowful eyes pleading for understanding. "You must help us find peace. Our lives were lost in this storm, and we cannot move on until our stories are heard." I felt a surge of empathy, realizing that these spirits were trapped by the very storm that had ensnared us. "How can we help?" I asked, my voice steady despite the fear gripping me. She pointed towards a display case filled with old, dusty jewelry, diamond necklaces, gold bracelets, and antique rings. The storm was caused by our unfulfilled desires, our longing for what was lost. "You must honor our memories, tell our stories, and set us free." determined to help. We spent the next few hours gathering information and piecing together the lives of those who had been trapped by the storm. Through old receipts, abandoned personal items, and the remnants of their shopping carts, we uncovered the tragic tales of families who had been separated by the tempest, children who had wandered too far in search of presents, and individuals who had succumbed to the harsh conditions. As we worked to honor their memories, the whispers grew softer, the oppressive energy lifting slightly. We organized a small memorial within the store, placing candles and photographs of the lost souls at the center of the electronics section. The act of remembrance seemed to resonate with the spirits, their presence becoming more peaceful and less menacing. But our efforts were not without consequences. One night, as we were setting up additional decorations for the memorial, a powerful gust of wind swept through the store, knocking over displays and sending products flying. In the chaos, a young woman, Rebecca, tried to escape but was overcome by the supernatural forces at play. She was found hours later, unconscious in the parking lot, her body marked with inexplicable symbols, an indication that she had been touched by the malevolent energy of the storm. The incident shook us to our core, reinforcing the belief that the spirits we were trying to help were not just seeking peace but were also protective of their lingering presence. Determined to succeed, we intensified our efforts, sharing the stories of the lost with anyone who would listen, ensuring that their voices were heard. On Christmas morning, the storm finally began to abate, the winds dying down and the snow settling into a calm blanket. The store felt different, lighter, as if the weight of the trapped souls had been lifted. The oppressive energy was gone, replaced by a serene stillness that allowed us to breathe freely once more. As we prepared to leave, the shadowy figure of the woman appeared one last time, her eyes now filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her form fading into the morning light. "You have set us free." The memories of that harrowing Christmas linger in my mind, a testament to the enduring power of compassion and the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. The haunted Walmart became a place of closure, where the echoes of the past were finally silenced, allowing both the living and the dead to find peace amidst the chaos of the storm. Years later, whenever I pass by that Walmart, now a symbol of resilience and remembrance, I can't help but feel a lingering connection to those lost souls. Their stories live on, a chilling reminder that even in the most mundane places, the echoes of tragedy and the power of empathy can create moments of profound horror and ultimate redemption. And so, the legend of the cursed Walmart of 2018 remains, a story of fear, hope, and the unbreakable bonds that tie us to those who came before. It serves as a haunting reminder that sometimes, the greatest horrors are not born from the unknown, but from the hearts and souls seeking to be remembered and set free. Story number 6. Echoes of Joy. The Haunting of Philly Toys R Us. I never believed in ghosts. Growing up in the heart of Philadelphia, surrounded by the city's rich history and vibrant life, I always chalked up unexplained phenomena to imagination or stress. But everything changed the Christmas season of 2018, when curiosity led me to the abandoned Toys R Us store on Market Street, a place where joy and tragedy intertwined in the most terrifying ways. It was a chilly December evening, and the holiday spirit was palpable in the air. Families bustled about, shopping for gifts and enjoying the festive decorations that adorned the city. I had recently lost my job at a local bookstore, and the combination of unemployment and a broken relationship had left me feeling purposeless. Desperate for a distraction, I decided to explore some of Philadelphia's forgotten landmarks, hoping to find inspiration for a blog I had been neglecting. Among the places I had researched was the old Toys R Us store, which had closed its doors in 2018 amidst rumors of declining sales and shifting consumer habits. The building, once a beacon of childhood dreams, now stood silent and forlorn, its colorful facade faded and windows boarded up. Local legends whispered of strange occurrences during the holiday season, children's laughter echoing through the empty aisles. shadowy figures darting between the shelves, and unsuspecting visitors disappearing without a trace. Intrigued and skeptical, I decided to visit the store on Christmas Eve, the night when the hauntings were said to be most active. Armed with my camera, a flashlight, and a backpack filled with essentials, I made my way to Market Street, the store's location etched clearly on my map. As I approached the building, the festive lights from nearby shops cast eerie reflections on the abandoned storefront. The once vibrant sign now hung crookedly, its letters barely visible against the grime and decay. I felt a shiver run down my spine but pushed forward, driven by a mix of curiosity and the need to escape my own bleak reality. The entrance was barricaded, but a loose board provided just enough space for me to squeeze through. The interior was dark, the air thick with dust and the lingering scent of old wood and forgotten memories. My flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing rows of empty shelves and the remnants of what once was a bustling store. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant sound of wind howling outside. I moved cautiously, my footsteps echoing in the vast, empty space. As I ventured deeper into the store, I felt an inexplicable sense of being watched. The children's section, with its colorful displays and towering shelves, stood out as the heart of the store. I approached a display of plush toys, their once bright colors now muted and worn. That's when I heard it, a faint sound, like the distant giggles of children playing. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The laughter grew louder, more distinct, echoing through the aisles. Just my imagination, I whispered to myself, trying to steady my nerves, but the laughter persisted, accompanied by the sound of tiny footsteps skittering across the floor. I followed the sounds, drawn towards the source like a moth to a flame. The aisles seemed to stretch on endlessly, the store's layout disorienting and labyrinthine. Shadows danced at the edge of my vision, moving with a life of their own. My flashlight flickered, casting unsettling patterns on the walls. Suddenly, the lights above me sputtered and went out, plunging the store into darkness. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for my phone, hoping to use its flashlight. But there was no signal. My phone was dead, likely drained from days of neglect. The only light came from the occasional flicker of my flashlight, revealing glimpses of movement in the shadows. A cold breeze swept through the store, carrying with it the unmistakable sound of whispered pleas. "Help us! Find our way!" The voices were soft but filled with an overwhelming sense of despair. I stumbled forward, trying to navigate the maze of shelves. But the store seemed to shift around me, the aisles warping and changing direction. In the distance, I saw a faint glow, an ethereal light emanating from the end of a long corridor. Desperate for answers, I made my way towards it, the whispers growing louder with each step. As I approached, the light took shape, revealing a figure, a young girl dressed in a bright red coat, her face pale and eyes hollow with sorrow. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice trembling. She didn't respond but extended a hand towards me, her fingers beckoning me to follow. "Help us!" The whispers echoed around us, the atmosphere thick with grief and longing. I hesitated, torn between the urge to flee and the compulsion to assist these lost souls. Summoning my courage, I took her hand, and she led me through the maze of shelves towards a secluded corner of the store. There, amidst a display of vintage board games, lay a tattered dollhouse, its miniature rooms meticulously detailed but now covered in dust and cobwebs. "This is where we got lost," the girl whispered, her voice merging with the cacophony of other spirits. "Trapped in our own stories, unable to move on." I knelt down, examining the dollhouse. It was a poignant symbol of childhood innocence and creativity, now a prison for these restless spirits. "How can I help you?" I asked softly. One of the other spirits materialized beside the dollhouse, a boy with a missing front tooth and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. "We need to tell our stories," he said, his voice filled with urgency. "Remember us. Let the world know what happened." realizing that these spirits were bound by their untold stories and unresolved tragedies. I knew what I had to do. I spent the next few hours documenting their experiences, recording their whispers, and capturing the eerie apparitions on camera. Each story was a heartbreaking account of joy turned to sorrow, children who had gone missing during the busy holiday rush, their families left in agonizing uncertainty. As I compiled the stories, the store seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The oppressive energy began to lift, the whispers softening into gentle sighs. The spirits, once tormented by their inability to be remembered, found solace in the act of sharing their tales. But just as dawn broke, a final, ominous presence appeared, a dark figure standing at the entrance of the store, its eyes burning with malice. "You shouldn't have come here," it growled, its voice resonating with dark power. "Leave now, or suffer the same fate." Fear paralyzed me, but I stood my ground, holding the dollhouse aloft. "I came to help you. Let you be remembered." The dark figure advanced, its form shifting and contorting with each step. The spirits I had aided stood beside me, their faces determined and resolute. "Remember us," we all echoed in unison, our voices merging into a powerful chorus. With a final, defiant cry, the dark figure dissipated into the shadows, banished by the collective will of the spirits and my unwavering resolve. The store was bathed in the soft glow of morning light, the once menacing atmosphere now serene and peaceful. As I made my way out of the store, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the boarded-up windows, illuminating the beauty that had always existed beneath the surface of the haunted building. The mall was bustling with life once more, the horrors of the night fading into the background of everyday chaos. In the weeks that followed, I shared the stories of the lost children with anyone who would listen, ensuring that their voices were heard and their memories preserved. The abandoned Toys R Us became a place of reflection and remembrance, a symbol of the importance of acknowledging the past and honoring those who had been forgotten. Years later, whenever I pass by that old store, now repurposed into a community center, I feel a sense of peace knowing that the spirits of the lost children have finally found their way home. The echoes of joy and sorrow that once haunted the aisles have been transformed into a legacy of compassion and understanding. The haunting of the Philadelphia Toys R Us taught me that even in the most unexpected places, the bonds of memory and empathy can bridge the gap between the living and the dead. It reminded me that every story deserves to be told, every soul deserves to be remembered, and that sometimes, the most terrifying horrors can be quelled by simple acts of kindness and recognition. And so, the legacy of those lost children lives on, not as shadows of fear, but as cherished memories that inspire us to honor the past and cherish the present. The abandoned store stands as a testament to the enduring power of compassion, forever echoing with the laughter and whispers of children who were finally heard. Story number 7. Whispers in the Frost. The Haunting of Macy's Chicago. I never believed in ghosts. Growing up in the heart of Chicago, surrounded by towering skyscrapers and the relentless pace of city life, I prided myself on my practicality. Superstitions and ghost stories were the fodder for late-night conversations and campfire tales, not something I took seriously. But everything changed the winter I started working at Macy's on State Street, where the echoes of a tragic past would soon entwine with my own reality in the most terrifying ways. It was late November 2023 when I landed the job. Fresh out of college, I was eager to make my way in the world, and the opportunity at Macy's seemed perfect. The store was an iconic landmark, its grand windows and festive displays a beacon of holiday cheer. I was assigned to the inventory department, a quiet corner of the store that saw fewer customers but required meticulous attention to detail. From the outset, there was something unsettling about that particular section. The lighting was dimmer, the air colder, and the silence almost oppressive compared to the bustling main floors. My supervisor, Karen, warned me to stay vigilant, especially during the winter months when heavy snowstorms would occasionally lash the city, cutting off power and isolating the store from the outside world. Some nights, it's like the store is holding its breath. Karen had said with a wary glance. Just stay focused and keep to your tasks. I shrugged off her comment, attributing it to her own experiences and the long hours. But as December approached, the weather grew more unpredictable. Snowstorms became frequent, and each time one hit, the store would go into a near-complete lockdown. The lights would flicker, and a pervasive chill would settle over the aisles, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. It was during one such storm that I first noticed her. I was restocking shelves late on Christmas Eve. The store nearly empty except for a few dedicated staff members. The power had gone out, and emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the room. As I reached for a box on a high shelf, I heard a soft, almost inaudible humming. I turned, expecting to see a coworker, but there was no one there. Shrugging it off, I continued my work, but the humming persisted, growing slightly louder and more melodic. It seemed to emanate from the end of the aisle, where the Christmas decorations were stored. Curiosity got the better of me, and I approached cautiously, the sound guiding me forward. As I neared the decorations, the temperature dropped noticeably, my breath visible in the cold air. The humming stopped abruptly, replaced by the faint sound of footsteps echoing down the aisle. I froze, heart pounding, as a shadowy figure began to materialize in front of me. She was a woman, dressed in what looked like a vintage Macy's uniform from decades past. Her hair was neatly pinned back, and her face held a serene yet sorrowful expression. She moved with purpose, arranging ornaments on a neglected Christmas tree, her actions deliberate and almost ethereal. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She turned to face me, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity that sent chills through my body. "I'm sorry," she murmured, her voice echoing unnaturally in the silent store. I never finished my work. Before I could respond, she vanished, leaving me alone with the lingering sense of sadness that seemed to permeate the air. I rushed back to Karen, my mind racing with questions. "Karen, did you see that?" I asked, breathless. She looked at me with a mixture of concern and resignation. "Yes, that's Eleanor. She was one of our employees who disappeared back in 2005. They say her spirit remains, unable to move on because of the storm that took her life." Eleanor Whitaker, a name that sent a shiver down my spine. According to store records, Eleanor had been a dedicated employee, beloved by customers and colleagues alike. One Christmas Eve in 2005, a sudden blizzard had trapped her inside the store. When the storm finally subsided, she was never found, and her disappearance remained a mystery. Over the following weeks, the sightings became more frequent. Eleanor appeared during every major snowstorm, her presence both haunting and heartbreaking. She was often seen tending to the Christmas displays, her ghostly figure moving silently through the aisles. Employees reported feeling an unexplained coldness and the faint sound of children's laughter and jingling bells. Even on the coldest nights, determined to uncover the truth behind Eleanor's lingering spirit, I delved into the store's archives. Poring over old employee records and newspaper clippings, I discovered that Eleanor had been planning to take the store's most prized decorations home to her family. But the storm had forced her to stay behind. Some speculated that she had been a victim of foul play, while others believed she had simply succumbed to the harsh conditions. One particularly fierce storm hit Chicago in late December, cutting off power and trapping us inside the store once again. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to stretch and twist with malevolent intent. As I worked late into the night, the familiar humming returned, guiding me toward the decorations once more. This time, Eleanor didn't just appear and disappear. She approached me, her expression desperate. "Help me," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I need to finish what I started." Before I could respond, the ground beneath us shook violently, and a blinding flash of light filled the room. When my vision cleared, I found myself standing outside the store, the storm still raging around me but the building intact and accessible. Confused, I turned to see Karen standing beside me, her face pale. "What happened?" I asked, my mind struggling to process the sudden shift. "The storm opened a portal," she explained. "Eleanor was trapped between worlds, unable to break free. You helped her find peace by completing her final task." I glanced back at the store, now calm despite the ongoing storm. The Christmas tree stood perfectly decorated, Eleanor's presence no longer haunting the aisles. The oppressive cold had lifted, replaced by a serene stillness that spoke of closure. In the days that followed, the strange phenomena ceased. Eleanor no longer appeared, and the store returned to its usual, bustling self. The staff and I shared knowing glances, the unspoken understanding that we had witnessed something beyond our comprehension. Years later, I still work at Macy's, now a seasoned employee who has seen the store through countless holidays and storms. The legend of Eleanor Whitaker remains a part of our collective memory, a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead. Sometimes, during a heavy snowstorm, I catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure moving silently through the aisles, arranging decorations with a tenderness that speaks of love and loss. The haunting of Macy's became a story we shared with new employees, a tale of compassion and the enduring spirit of those who dedicate their lives to bringing joy to others. Eleanor's legacy lives on, not as a figure of fear, but as a symbol of the love and dedication that defines the holiday season. And as long as the snow continues to fall and the lights of Macy's shine brightly, the echoes of Eleanor's presence will remain, a testament to the enduring power of compassion and the mysteries that lie hidden within the heart of Chicago.